Daniel here for Tabletop for One, and my first impressions after 4 plays of Ahau, Rulers of Yucatan. And I thank you for joining me tonight. Now, Ahau, Rulers of Yucatan is designed by Tomas, Olah, and is published by Apeiron Games, and Grand Gamers Guild provided me with this review copy to provide a tutorial solo playthrough video. Now, they did not ask me to give my thoughts on the game, but I wanted to because this game kind of took me by surprise. I guess I'll jump right into it. This game grew on me. So right off the bat, I have to tell you, I did not like the game. When I first played it, I just did not click with it. It just didn't feel like a game I was going to enjoy. And it really was kind of a disappointment to me because the game itself looks a lot like Daimyo, Rebirth of the Empire, which I have behind me. And, you know, it doesn't use dice like Daimyo, but it still felt like a similar area control kind of game with some set collection and some other things. And I played it and I was just like, man, this is just a real disappointment. But as I continued to play it, it got better and better. And as of right now, I love this game. It's not a perfect game by any means. There's definitely some issues, which I'll talk about in a minute. But let's talk about the gameplay. So in Ahau, you are a ruler of a Mayan royal family, and you are trying to gain influence throughout the country, and you are also trying to harness the power of the gods in your favor. Now, the way the game plays is every turn you're going to select 2 cards from your hand of cards. And the 2 cards that you choose, one will be for the region that you want to work in that turn, and the other one will be for military power. And so the AI then gets to choose 2 cards, and if they choose the same region with you, you have a conflict, which results in one of you getting expelled from that region to an adjacent one, and possibly getting some bonuses depending on what happens. And then once the rulers have settled in their regions, you gain a pyramid tile, and then you get to play your turn where you place a worker in one of the adjacent cities. Then you can also activate god powers if you have built a tile of that god in your pyramid or have tiles available. And the god powers do a variety of different things. It basically gives you an added way of propelling forward in the game, whether it gives you more workers or lets you produce or do other things. And then once you're done with that, you go on to the produce or build stage. The produce is fairly straightforward. You're gonna produce resources. And the other one is to build, where you build buildings on your player board or you build the steps on your pyramid. And each of those things grant various bonuses, but the great thing is the buildings. And for the player, the buildings matter so much because you can have this great synergy between buildings where the buildings help you get extra influence or fame or do various things. Other buildings can give you different resources and lots of different bonuses that just worked well together. Meanwhile, the AI is doing the exact same thing you are and trying to exert influence over the land. And after a few rounds, what happens is the calendar year gets filled up where 4 production areas have been depleted. And then what happens is what is called a Yucatan celebration. So you celebrate the year or the era of that time. You getting fame for what you've done for the gods, and then you also gain fame for having control over the different cities on the map. After the 3rd Yucatan celebration, the game will end. And so that's the gist of the game. Now the game itself takes about 60 minutes or so to play, maybe longer. I would say between 60 and 90 minutes to play. And a lot of that is due to the one problem I have with this game is a severe lack of player aids for the solo side of the game. All right, so when you're playing the solo mode, this is a David Digby solo mode, and it's very well done. It very well simulates another opponent and the choices that they make. But the problem is a lot of the stuff where you're having to choose what the AI does based on certain priorities and that sort of thing, they're buried in the rulebook. So you constantly have to flip in the rulebook between things to try and see what the AI is going to do because it's hard to memorize all of them. And on top of that, the rules aren't always clear, or at least the verbiage used didn't really sink in for me on one particular thing. And that's where they have 2 phrases used when determining which god the AI is going to favor in that turn or in that action. And one is called the highest ranked god, and the other one called is the most preferred god. Now, this is likely a me problem, but I got those confused, and I got those confused in my tutorial playthrough. It only affected a few of those actions in the round. Most of them were spot on. But that most preferred, see, I thought most preferred meant the one at the top, or least preferred meant the one at the bottom. Whereas the highest ranked, I thought whichever one is highest on that list that meets that criteria, or lowest ranked, and so on. It's actually the opposite. And they do say that in the rule book, but that language for me, it just, I kind of wish they had swapped those actually, personally. And again, I guess that's a me problem, but it just wasn't that clear. It threw me off quite a bit. But my bigger issue is that there is no player aids. So anytime the AI activates a god, you have to look in the book to find out exactly what it's going to do. You have to follow the priority list and do all those things. And that just takes time. That takes a lot of time away from the game. With sufficient player aids, I would imagine you could cut the time by 25% easily. But a lot of the time you're going to be flipping back over because it's not easy to memorize all the different priorities, because there's a priority for everything that the AI does. There's a priority for it choosing a pyramid tile. There's a priority for it placing a worker. There's a priority for each of the 5 different gods. There's a priority for producing. There's a priority for building, and all those things come into play. So you're constantly having to take a lot of time doing the AI's turn, where your turns take a fraction of the time. And if you know me, I tend to not like that with automas. I tend to prefer a streamlined automa where it takes the same or less time to do the automa's turn than my turn. I like to spend more time playing the game than operating an automa. So why do I like it then? I mean, this is obviously an automa that I would normally not like. And the fact is that I just really enjoy this game. I really enjoy the building synergies. I love the area control aspect. I love how the AI moves and uses its abilities and everything. It's a really well-designed solo mode. It's just not as well developed as it could be. Like I said, a lot of that has to do with the player aids. And it's really unfortunate because there's player aids for the player itself. So you have all 5 gods here, and what happens when you summon each of these gods. And on the other side, it has the movement phase, action phase, and all that. So all we needed was something like that, maybe even 2 player aids, so that we could have it on the table instead of having to flip this very large book on the table to try and find those priorities. Because that just takes up a lot of table space for a solo player. It's a lot, because you're already dealing with the AI's player boards and its resources and all that stuff. Having to have that rule book out all the time rather than smaller player aids, it's just an unfortunate miss. But don't get me wrong, this is a great Euro game. This is a great area control Euro game. There's a lot of fun decisions to be made. There's a lot of different avenues to success. In the playthrough, I did an area control strategy, and it paid off. I got a ton of points. But I've also done a combat strategy where I planned on trying to have conflicts with the AI as much as I could and make my way up the might track. And that ended up working well too. So there are different strategies that you can do, and it definitely benefits if you hyper focus on a specific strategy rather than balance all the way out. But you can also focus on the temple strategy and getting a lot of gods in your favor. There's a lot of things to do. And so I guess my final thoughts are this. This is a great game. Now, this is on the heavier side. I would put it to a medium heavy complexity range, but it's definitely rewarding with more plays. I've played it 5 times now, and there's still a lot to explore because there are different personalities for the AI. There's the night side of the boards, which is an advanced mode of play, which I haven't played yet. So I am looking forward to trying those out. And there's also 3 different level difficulties for the AI as well. So there's a lot to explore here, and I really look forward to it. And from what I hear, the expansion that a lot of backers got, I did not get the expansion, but I believe it comes with more solo components to add to that variety. And so there you have it. That was my first impressions after 4 plays of Ahau, Rulers of Yucatan. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this game. Also, ask me any questions about the game if you'd like. Do bear in mind that while this is a review copy, I do hold to these opinions as my own. I'm not getting compensated for this. And if you'd like more information on the game, I'll have links in my description. Please also like and subscribe to this channel if you like the content you see here. And if you'd like to support me on Patreon, I have a link in the description. And I thank everyone who has supported me thus far. And I thank you very much for watching me on Tabletop for One. Have a great night.